What's up, everybody? Probably the easiest way to describe Imperial Dreams would probably be that it's a combination of Boys in the Hood, Pursuit of Happiness, mixed with Carlito's Way with like a little bit of the wrestler kind of feel to it because it's kind of a depressing movie. That being said, this isn't really like a totally new story that we haven't seen before, but we also haven't seen it told in quite this way before, at least not to my knowledge. But despite the familiarity, I found myself like super, like really zoned in on this movie. And I don't think there was anything in the movie that I thought was poorly done. Like, there were some things that could have been done a little bit better that I would have liked to have seen more of. But for the most part, there wasn't anything like super terrible about the flick. And I have to say Netflix was probably the perfect platform for it because it's like kind of a lower budget. It's more of a character study and there's no like big action spectacle shit going on for the most part. Like, this is one of those movies that was meant to be viewed like at home, like on your laptop or on your own TV or something. Which therein lies an annoyance with me because Netflix really needs to start differentiating between their originals and their own productions. Because this movie actually premiered at Sundance a few years ago and they just picked up the rights for it, but they're claiming it's a Netflix original. They should just call it Netflix Properties and Netflix Productions. That's it. But anyway, enough about that. This movie actually like solidifies the fact that John Boyega is definitely going places. Because this movie was made after Attack the Block and before The Force Awakens, and I thought he was awesome in this movie. Because if you've ever heard him in interviews or anything, he has a thick British accent. This movie could not hear a word of it. And the basic premise is he's been in and out of jail, but he has a son, so now he wants to just, his hands need to be totally clean just for the sake of his kid. And really the only things in the movie that needed improvement was they didn't really talk to the kid's mom too much. Like, they didn't really like expand on her character really at all. Honestly, she's just like, she's in this spot and she's not going anywhere, and that's pretty much it. And the only other thing was that John Boyega's character was like, they peppered in reasons like while he was in prison or jail or whatever, why he was like trying to be a better person, kind of. But I personally would have liked to have seen a little bit more expansion on that idea because it peppers in little things that he hears from random people in jail. Like, there was no concrete thing that was like a game changer that he like totally changed his mind about being like a hood rat and like wanting everything to be about and for his kid. So I kind of wish they would have touched a little bit more on that. But throughout the movie, they still give you something to go on, so he has like somewhat of a motivation. So it wasn't bad. I thought it could have been a little bit better, but that's just me. For the rest of the movie, I was pretty impressed. First time director, I can't tell you his name, but whatever his next project is, I'm interested. Because none of the characters were really one note. Every character had some depth, unless it was one of the characters that only had like maybe less than 5 minutes of screen time, then that wasn't really super necessary. But there's like a couple of cops that kind of give John Boyega shit throughout the movie, and like even they have like layers to them. And his mom, like towards the beginning of the movie, you think she's just one thing, and that's like, you know, that's it, that's all you think. But throughout the movie, like her character actually like grows and you grow to understand who she is. There wasn't necessarily a through line arc with her character, but it doesn't matter because she really only had like a few minutes of screen time, so they did what they could with her, and I thought it was effective. And John Boyega's awesome, like I said. Whoever the little kid is, he did fine. I mean, he's like, you know, he's just a little tyke, like he's a little guy. But it doesn't matter because the director worked just fine with the kid. He got all the right performances out of him, like he was just fine. And you know he's a kid, so you can't really expect much, but the director got like all the right performances out of him. It was totally believable. So in my opinion, it looked like they worked well together. And the kid and John Boyega, like, you believe that they were father and son at like many points throughout the movie. And like the kid's got a personality, like he really likes horses, so he always has like this little horse that he's playing with all the time. Like the kid sees a couple of dudes like riding on horses at one point, and Boyega's like, damn, I gotta let my kid ride a horse one day. They did a really good job with the whole father-son dynamic, I thought. And there's like some theme music that you hear fairly early in the movie that kind of like reiterates throughout, and it was super catchy and cool, and like you kind of like felt the emotions that John Boyega's character was feeling through the music. I thought it was cool, which is rare. You don't always hear that. And just throughout the movie, you feel the frustration that his character feels, like how stressful it is to get back on your feet after you've been in, like through the judicial system, like how hard it is. Like, it's just this vicious cycle. Like, you need A in order to get B, but in order to get B, you have to get C. But in order to get C, A has to exist. Like, just this whole frustrating cycle of shit that you have to go through just to get back on your feet sometimes. And how he has to kind of depend on the people that are the reason why he went to jail in the first place. He, like, just constantly has to battle with that. Like, he just wants to break free for the little guy. That's all he wants to do. He wants his son to not grow up in a shitbag neighborhood, have to doing terrible things. He doesn't want him to go through the system the way that he did. One thing that I hated at first, but then I grew to understand it and like it actually, was in the beginning you hear Boyega's narration about like how you're supposed to be a good person and you can't do certain things in certain areas and like all this other shit. And in my head I'm like, okay, is this about to get like super preachy? Is this movie gonna like tell you how to feel? And then after a few minutes you're like, oh no, he's trying to be a writer and this is him, like the shit that he writes down. This is all just like stuff coming from his mind. He's not actually saying that to the audience. And in my head I was like, huh, that's that's kind of a cool way to help like accentuate the story. So that was cool. The movie is kind of depressing. Like, I don't know if you probably want to watch it more than once. Like me personally, I grew up watching like Reservoir Dogs, Boys in the Hood, and like super violent movies before I even got to high school. So I can kind of handle it. But there's some like rough shit that happens in the movie, so it might be a little hard to get through. But if you can stomach some of the violence, I highly recommend this movie. I think for a rating, I'm probably going to give it an 8.8 out of 10. Like, I really enjoyed it, as depressing as it was. It's a familiar story that we've heard before, but it's told in such a way that it keeps you interested, and they did a lot of really good character work in it. I think everybody will be able to connect with somebody on some level in this movie. Or at least that's what I hope. But anyway, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Did you see this movie? Are you excited for it? Drop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, do all that other bullshit, and I will catch you guys later.